Welcome to this week's Skillful Living video. In a previous video, I talked about detachment and its opposite, attachment. I'd just like to carry forward that conversation a little bit today. If we look a little deeper into all the examples of attachment that I talked about in the last video, we'll see that at their core, they all seem to be attachments to the ego self. The attachment to myself, to what I think, what I do, what I want, the attachment to my possessions, to my home, to my clothes, to my things, to my ideas as well, to my reputation, to my image in my circle of friends and associates. All of them seem to be about I and my, and this is all connecting to the ego self, not the highest self. Even the love we have for others, sooner or later we start thinking of them as my friends or my partner or my child or my mother. Again, it's all in relation to me. So this was something I just wanted to touch on. We talk about my achievements at work or in life in general or at home, but then we also talk about other people's achievements. So is that not talking about the ego? Well, if my child does well at school and I start showing off my child or showing off my child's achievements to others, once again, it's my child. My child did so well at school. My child perhaps did a little bit better than someone else's child, even though that may not be stated. But that sense of pride also has a little bit of attachment to ego. That's not to say that it's bad. You should be proud of your children's achievements and you should validate their achievements, but just to be aware of where this feeling may be coming from. So also, my husband got a promotion or my wife got a raise. So even when I'm not talking about myself and I'm not saying I did this and I got that, even then we're proud of other people because they're related to us in some way. So we sort of share their glory, if you like. So just an awareness that a lot of attachment comes from this basic attachment to the ego self. And why do I say ego self? Because as I think I have discussed in a previous video, there are different levels of self. So some of us identify more with the body, some more with the mind, and so on. And according to the Bhagavad Gita, there are several levels of the self. There's the body and the senses, which is part of body awareness. And then there's the mind, which is where our thoughts live, and our thoughts give rise to our feelings and emotions. And then there's buddhi, the intellect, which is a little bit like a higher part of the mind. And finally, there is the soul, the highest self. So the more you identify with that highest level of your soul or your, highest self, your highest potential, the less you identify with the ego. And I just wanted to raise this point that the attachment is almost always to the ego self, which is all the lower, if I can put it that way, the lower levels of being, even the mind and the intellect, and definitely the body attachment. All of these are, again, not bad, but just at a different level of being and a different level of identification. So the more we identify with our highest self, the less attached we are. And the less attached we are, the happier we are, the more peaceful we are, the kinder we are to others, the better we can love others unconditionally without attachments that we bring into every relationship. You must do this or that to get my approval, to get my appreciation, to get my love, even in some cases. So that's another way to deal with attachment, to get above attachment, to transcend attachment, and quite naturally get to a level of detachment. But remember, detachment in the spiritual sense, so you're detached from everything, perhaps, at a higher level of being, but that doesn't mean you don't care. So I call it detachment with engagement. You still engage with the world, you still care for people, you love people, but now you do it without conditions and without attachment to your own conditions and your own expectations. Thank you. I just thought I'd make a little clarification to that last video on detachment. Thank you for listening, for viewing this video, for staying with me in this program, and see you next week. Namaste.